Okay, welcome everybody to the Green Fork Food for Thought podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Zabala. Today's guest is Jenna Hume. She's a nurse practitioner, obesity medicine specialist, and the owner of Six Pillars Health, located in Clifton Park, but serving all of New York State. She's an ally in the fight to make our communities healthier, which is why I wanted to have her on. She works with clients and patients to help people live their best lives by losing unwanted weight and learning healthy lifestyle practices through the use of modern science and basic nutrition principles. She preaches nutrition, movement, stress management, quality sleep, substance avoidance, and social connection in her 6 pillars method to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So, welcome, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on today. Why don't we just start by you just giving us a brief background of who you are, how you got into what it is you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with who I actually am, and then I'll go into what I do. So I am going to be 33. That's news to me. I thought I was 33 already. So I'm going to be 33 in September. I have 2 kids, 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, married. I went into nursing kind of on a whim. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in school. My husband is like, hey, how about nursing? I'm like, let's do it, jump into it. But that was really the first time I was introduced to the healthcare system from that standpoint, and that was shocking. It was scary. And I really started to think about the preventative aspect of medicine, because I never wanted to end up in a hospital if I could help it. So went through school, graduated from nursing school, decided to go on to get my nurse practitioner degree. But while I was doing that, I was working at Albany Med in their gastrointestinal unit, and was helping physicians do colonoscopies, endoscopies. So actually being able to see people's guts, literally.
Wow.
And, having the conversation with them about, here's this issue, we're going to give you omeprazole to solve this issue. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what are you actually doing on the other side of this? Like, what are you eating throughout the day? Is that just what we do? And I had a lot of questions about that. And I kind of started to go down a rabbit hole of how treatment plans were created. And not to say that I could do things better, but I was like, I want to know more about what everybody's lifestyle looks like versus just this little snippet of what we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
So taking that forward into nurse practitioner school, I went to Duke, graduated from there, but I really had to find my own clinical sites. It's a whole long legal story, but I ended up going to 7 different states to finish my clinical rotations, and I really focused on the preventative health. So tried to find places where they weren't really writing a lot of prescriptions. They were focusing on the lifestyle changes, and it was an amazing opportunity. The physicians there were excellent. They were great teachers. They were really educated, and you just don't hear about these providers.
Yeah.
I think from a standpoint of people coming on and saying, providers don't know X, Y, and Z, and they're really lacking in this department. I'm not going to say it's not true, but I also think the healthcare system has a lot to do with that. And we can touch on that too. But
I want to. Yeah.
The experience that I had from that was really great. Then I decided, I wanted to carry that forward, looked for a job after nurse practitioner school. The job that I was offered was not actually depicted as so, and when I met with the physician that was going to be training me, she's like, what they put in the advertisement is not actually what I do. Like, it was going to be tube feeds, and we were going to be doing stuff, altering those, and she's like, no, we do metabolic weight management and calorie deficit, and this is what I'm going to be teaching you. And she's board certified in obesity medicine, so I was like, let's do it. I went in, I was like, I'm not writing a single script, I'm not doing it. She's like, I understand. She's like, but I want to give you a second to just also learn where the patients are coming from. I'm like, okay, but I'm going to go in and we're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about exercise, because what else do these people need to know? Nobody's talking about it. And she's like, I understand, but just go through and see with me where these people are. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So after the first few months of doing this, I started to really but say, okay, these people are coming in, and we know that the calorie deficit is what the issue starts to be with people.
Pull this microphone a little closer.
I feel like I yell when I do these. So we start to feel like the calorie deficit, is the main issue with these people, and they know the issue of that happening, but it's how do you get people to understand that?
Yeah.
So then we started to approach this from, if they have a tool that's allowing them to stay in a deficit to be able to lose weight? Does that make things easier? So we started focusing on that. I loved it. And then she's like, hey, if I was your age, I would start, my own practice. I want you to go and do that. I'm like, oh shit, you either hate me or you really want me to go and do this. So she's like, listen, if this fails, you have a place with me always, but like, I wish somebody pushed me to do that.
Yeah.
That was my long story, but here we are. Started my own practice 2 years ago. Loved it. I've been in obesity medicine for 5 years. And I have made all of the changes that I wished that I could have seen in healthcare back then. So longer patient visits. I set it up as a membership model where patients can text me at any point. They can email me at any point. They have open access to me. And people love that ability. They love, I don't have to have all the answers, but they can get a hold of me and ask what they need to ask.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're very accessible.
Yeah.
So you got frustrated with the healthcare system, the way things are going, the specificity that doctors have. I know we can definitely talk about that. I went to my doctor for some blood work. First of all, I had to pull strings to get it done, everything that I wanted. And then when they came back, I got a call from, his assistant and was like, oh, you're good.
Yeah.
Your levels
Cool.
are good. Everything's
what does
good.
That mean?
Yeah. I'm like, well, wait a minute. So I had to go do my own research and all that. And I'm pretty, blood work was all right, but there's some things that I wanted to know and questions I wanted to ask. And he just didn't have the knowledge or the time even to go over that with me. So is that something you do, is go over blood work with patients?
Yeah, so I tend to do a little bit more than what primary care does, blood work wise, and I explain that to patients, but I also have to put that out there that we're also working against insurance, because a lot of the times I do know primary care providers will say, I'm not going to draw this because I don't want you to end up with a $400 bill, then that comes back to me and then that creates more work for billing. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're upfront and you're transparent with patients and you say, listen, I can't promise that this is going to be covered, this is what you can expect, I can give you an estimate, I would say 90% of the time patients are like, well, I want to know what's going on. Do it. I'll pay for it.
Right.
It's on me. So I don't think a lot of patients get that option when it's just, from primary care, just the normal health system. But the ability to sit and have the conversation with patients about, hey, this is what your A1C looks like. It's normal, but it's trending up. What are we doing about that, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just looking at, hey, there's no flags. It's what direction are they moving? Are they staying the same? Are they dropping down? Are they going up? And patients really appreciate that. And the one thing that I will tell patients over and over again is we'll do the Inbody, and I know they're not a perfect science, but they sure as heck give you a lot more information than a normal scale will.
Yeah.
I recommend and really try to push all of my patients to have those done for appointments. And I don't know why they don't have them in primary care offices.
What is an Inbody scan?
So it breaks down body composition. Your scale that you step on just gives you your relationship to gravity, just gives you a flat number. It's going to fluctuate. It doesn't tell you why you're fluctuating, but from my standpoint, it's because you've eaten a carb and you're holding water, you've worked out. There could be a million reasons, hormone fluctuations, right? But somebody who is actively trying to lose weight is going to look at that and say, oh my God, why am I up 5 pounds? But you do a body composition scan, an Inbody scan, and that's going to tell you what your percentage of fat is, your skeletal muscle mass. It will tell you your water retention. It will tell you visceral fat, which is one of the most important things that I look at in addition to skeletal muscle mass. But that's really how I create the treatment plan for patients. If somebody's coming in and saying, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, but their skeletal muscle mass is below average, I'm going to say, no, we don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on building this up. Then we can focus on the fat loss part of this.
Right.
And if you haven't got one done, find a gym that does it. I can recommend a bunch to you, but they're really helpful.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more feedback other than just your weight.
Correct.
Because like you said, if you have no muscle and you're mostly fat, you want to build muscle, which will look like weight on the scale.
Right.
And people are so afraid to put weight on that scale when in reality, you need muscle. You want to increase your muscle mass and lower your body fat. So the Inbody scan is definitely a useful tool for that. And then see somebody that knows what they're talking about that can explain those results, like yourself. Do you see the future of like healthcare going in the direction of people like yourself with individual practices that are more geared towards analyzing results and giving more feedback, more so than, family care physicians can do?
Yes, I think a lot of physicians, I know for a fact that they are actually on a hiring spree for nurse practitioners and physician assistants because so many physicians have left the practice or left the field. just from burnout.
Yeah.
And again, going back to, it's not necessarily the provider, it's more of the healthcare system.
Yeah.
They don't give adequate amount of time for providers to see the patient, but then they also don't give adequate time for them to do the research to then come back and say, hey, here's a referral that I think is going to be really beneficial for you. I don't have the answers, but this person does. You see 20 people at the end of the day, you're just trying to finish your charts, right? Like that thought is gone. Sorry, I'll see you in 6 months and I will remember that. And then you never do, right? I think a lot of people are going to start to go that way. And I struggled with this for a while. I'm charging people out of pocket. I don't take insurance. And that was something where I'm like, this is going to go really well or it's going to go really terrible. But what I tell people is it allows me to see less patients so I can spend more time with the patients that I do have. I can give you better quality care. And people have loved it. And I really encourage people to try that model. You're not chasing follow-ups from people. They know that they're paying for this, that accountability is there.
Yeah.
It's still an accessible price for people, and there is the option to get reimbursed if your insurance isn't horrible. But I hope more people go that way. And then it would be great if insurance followed and would actually pay membership prices versus going to your standard office visits.
Yeah, I think, I don't know this, but I think that insurance is kind of catching up because I know with my food service, insurance companies are now paying, reimbursing for if people were to order food from me, they would reimburse them for that.
Yep.
So that's cool. But I think that also paying out of pocket causes you to have more interest in what's going on, right? Like you're not just going to waste however much it is, probably a couple $100. You're not going to waste that. You're going to be actually invested in your health,
Yeah, and it does. It makes people accountable. And they do sign a contract in the beginning where they know, like, once every 4 weeks, you and I are having an appointment. I love when people come in more often than that. Sometimes they don't need to, but they also know they can text me, email me, whatever. But that standpoint, too, keeps them accountable with the nutrition changes and the lifestyle changes. Then you don't have somebody that's gone 6 months and is like, oh, crap, I haven't seen you, and now I need to play catch up. Well, no, because I've been keeping track of what's happening.
So they're invested and you're invested too. So that's great.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you do in your practice? Like, what's the bread and butter? What's the common thing that you do most of the time?
So specialty is obesity medicine, and with this, I say that there's a certain demographic of people that will come in and. I'll say are patients of mine, but I do see everybody. Not everybody comes in for obesity medicine. Some might just be, I'm so overwhelmed at what I'm seeing on Instagram, I don't know what the heck to eat.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's so much misinformation, so much bullshit out there.
Yes. So they'll come in and they just want somebody to say, just eat this, just tell me what to eat. And it's not necessarily like, hey, I'm giving you a meal plan. It's just basic knowledge of here's your goal, here's how you get there. More of a roadmap, and then they usually are like, cool, I can figure this out, so maybe that's a one-time visit. Fine.
Yep.
For a majority of other people, these are people who have struggled with obesity for many years. They could be on medications that cause them to really struggle to stay in a calorie deficit, to lose weight. These could be people who went through COVID and then picked up drinking and gained excess weight and are having a really difficult time recompositioning, changing their body composition, trying to get into a calorie deficit. So they will come in, we'll talk about things that they have done in the past and what has worked for them, and then we'll also look at blood work, we'll look at their Inbody, and then we'll have a conversation. Where do you feel like you are on this spectrum right now? Do you feel like, I haven't put the time and the effort in, honestly, with tracking what I'm eating and knowing that I'm in a deficit? And of course, I can tell, like if somebody's steadily increasing weight over time, you're not in a calorie deficit, right?
Right.
You're in a surplus.
Yeah.
But if somebody's like, man, I'm stagnant, I can't figure out what I'm doing, okay, you're hanging out in maintenance, we get that. But I also have to meet them where they're at. If they feel like they're banging their head against the wall, I'm like, okay, do we feel like we need to add something in that's going to allow you to stay into a calorie deficit? And that's where these medications can come in. It's controversial. I get a lot of, I'll say feedback from people. But I come at it from a standpoint of education because they're not going to go anywhere. And the changes that people who are on these medications have made, it's amazing. And it's really life-changing for these people.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking about GLP-1s.
Mm-hmm. Those and oral medications. I mean, I just had a conversation before I got here with somebody who was like, I didn't know that non-injectable medications existed. I'm like, well, yeah, because they're not making the big money. It's not marketed.
Yeah.
They've been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
But these medications that people will ask about will say, I don't want to take a medication. They're not coming in to say, yeah, this is amazing, I want to be on it. People are crying in my office and saying, I feel like I've done everything that I can. I don't know what to do. And if my primary care doctor tells me I need to move more and eat less, I'm going to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know the basics. They know that, but it's how do you do that?
Yeah.
Right?
I've had clients and members of the gym that have been going at it for years, like really trying hard and just not getting anywhere.
And they show up, they're sweating when they're leaving the gym, right?
Yeah.
It's not for lack of hard work, but there's a mismatch with what they're eating and what maybe external environments are allowing them to control intake-wise.
Yeah.
And what they're able to burn off. And it's not because of hormones. It's really a calories in, calories out. But again, we also have to look at the external factors, which could be, are you emotionally eating? Does alcohol come into play?
Oh,
are
so
you on
many factors.
medications? Yeah.
I know. I always tell people when they come to me for nutrition coaching or nutrition advice, I go over the basics, right? It's like sleep, hydration, proper nutrition, calories in, calories out. Are you exercising? Is it the right way? And that's basic stuff, right? And then after that, it's like, I don't really know what to do. I don't know how to analyze blood work. So it's nice that you're out here doing that kind of stuff too. Once they've covered all those basic blocks and still aren't seeing any results, that's beyond the scope of my practice. So I'll send them to somebody like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's, people need to take that into account that, you can do everything within your power, but there could be something, you said not hormonally, there could be something hormonally, there could be, some kind of mental health issue around it, a lot of eating disorders and stuff like that. And it's nice to have somebody like you that can kind of dig in a little bit deeper, look at blood work, look at, all the factors, and then make a better plan for them.
And just to clarify, I don't want to say not hormonally. Like those, if you have somebody that comes in with a high blood sugar, if their insulin resistance is present, it doesn't mean that is going to cause somebody to gain fat, but it makes it really hard to control cravings.
Right.
So those come into play for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think I went to a conference recently, and it was called the Real Coaches Summit. It was great. I was one of the only providers there. It was a lot of trainers, and the general gist at that point was, we need to tell people, they have to take accountability for their actions, and they have to, be aware that they're overeating, and if they just did X, Y, and Z. And that wasn't everybody, but that was kind of the feeling that I got just talking to some trainers before the conference. And the speakers were incredible, because they were like, hey, you got to meet these people where they're at. If you're telling, a single dad that he's got to go and work out and he's got the same 24 hours in the day, they do, but it looks very different than somebody that works at a gym who doesn't have kids.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that took a lot of people back a little bit to say, okay, are there people that I have come across where I should have had a different approach, more empathetic? Not to say you're not taking accountability, but how can we get you to do X, Y, and Z so you feel good? Because at the end of the day, we all want people to feel good, to be their best self.
Exactly.
And where this competition came in, that, if somebody's on a medication, it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
It's, if they're changing their body composition and now they're hitting PRs in the gym and their blood work looks great, we're all trying to get there.
We're all for it.
You know what I mean? There's no cheat code to it. It's just a tool like anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think modern medicine and innovations, we should use them, to our advantage. We shouldn't demonize things because, people look at it as a quick fix. I know a lot of trainers, a lot of people I know are against the GLP-1s. And I'm like, well, why? What's the big deal? I mean, people need them, So can you go into a little bit further detail on like what a GLP-1 is and where it came from and like what it does for you?
Yeah, so I'll explain it how I explain it to patients. So specifically with GLP-1s, and I know we had talked about oral medications, but across the board, all of these medications are going to put you in a calorie deficit. So it doesn't matter if they're oral or they're injectable. The biggest difference between oral medications, and these are not oral GLP-1s, these are just a different category of weight management medications. The biggest difference between them is that you're going to have a higher percentage of weight loss with an injectable medication. And usually that's like the big flashy thing for people. They're like, I want to lose as much weight as possible. And I'm like, no, that is not the goal here. Our goal is, what is the least dose, the smallest dose that is most effective for you to be able to reach your health goals. And that can really mess with people's minds when they come in and they hear that from me. I'm not trying to gatekeep, but if I go and max you out on this dose and you can't tolerate it, you're going to tell me you're going to get to a gym? No. You're going to tell me you can make better decisions about eating? No. You're going to feel horrible. Right. That's not the point of this. So these GLP-1 medications, there are hormones in your gut. We make them naturally. There's leptin and there's ghrelin. Ghrelin is what makes us hungry, and leptin is what makes us feel full. So when these medications are injected, if we're thinking about our stomach as a muscle, when we're eating, it stretches out. We have these receptors that line our stomach that will be sending signals back and forth to the brain that says, oh, okay, I'm hungry, now food's coming in. Okay, we're stretching out. Now your brain's supposed to talk to your gut and say, hey, you're full, stop eating. For some people, when this happens, if they've had food scarcity as a child, if they're on medications, if they've just been the generation where, you can't get up from the table unless you clear all of the food from your plate, you get really, really good at silencing those signals. Easy to eat through them. You don't know what that stop is. These medications make those signals louder and stronger, and they're sent quicker. So now you have this new feeling of, I used to be able to eat 4 pieces of pizza and I'm getting full after 2. This is weird, but okay, I'm learning, right? So the other thing that these medications do is they're going to slow down how quickly the food moves through your stomach. This freaks a lot of people out. It's not normal, it's not natural, but this is part of how the medication works.
Doesn't seem like a good thing.
So this is where if somebody has gastroparesis, because there's nerve issues, let's say from diabetes, it impacts how quickly that food will also leave the sphincter in the stomach as well. So when I say slow down, I'm not saying it stops.
Right.
It does make it go slower. But for some people, they do have a very fast motility, meaning the food naturally, without medications, is moving very fast.
Right.
So if maybe you have encountered somebody that will eat a meal, and then maybe 10, 30 minutes later, they're like, okay, I'm ready for another meal. And I'm not talking something sweet. I'm saying these people will eat another meal.
Yeah.
This is how this medication can be life-changing for people. We can't cherry pick. We can't say that, oh, this is what the side effect is going to be for this group versus this group. Yeah. But this is one of the actions about how the medication works.
Will the slowing down increase the nutrient absorption in the gut?
So, no. That's actually a good question. I have some people, depending on if there are other things going on, like let's say if there's intestinal overgrowth unrelated to what's happening. That's something we also have to look at, which we can talk about that, but it will depend.
Okay.
So it's not going to necessarily sit there and give you a maximum absorption of iron. Mm-hmm. It's more so for the weight of the food to be there so that those signals are continuing to send to the gut.
Okay.
Then it's going to get pushed through the other, like the small intestines and the large intestines, where that's going to start absorbing what it would take from the food. But we have to look at this from a standpoint of the intake is going to be smaller.
Yeah.
So if you're not on this medication, your volume of food is going to be at a higher amount versus you go on this and now you're feeling full. So it's not a matter of how much is absorbed from what you're eating. It's just from the overall intake that's starting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would make it more important for you to get nutrient-dense foods, get plenty of protein, stay hydrated and all that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes.
Why that's important, even though you're taking these drugs, which help you eat less, because you're not as hungry. Why is it still important to eat good foods?
So, hot topic, but one of the controversial things that I hear a lot, and that my patients will hear a lot too, is that I just come in for an injection and I don't change anything else that I do.
Yeah.
We know that that's not what happens. The patients that come into me, we have a whole meal plan that we're following, right? And how I kind of explain this to patients is we're not thinking about the now. We're thinking about long term. Because if you're not changing anything now, and I'm like, hey, we're going to start to wean off of this, what have you changed? What have you learned?
Yeah.
They're aware of this, though. When they come into my office and they're crying, it's not a matter of I don't want to change it. They're not reluctant to change. It's how do I make it stick? How do I make that maintenance happen, right?
Yeah.
So this is something week by week we start adding in. The first thing I have everybody do is they are checking off how much fiber they're eating and how much fiber my goal is for them. 75 grams is a lot of fiber to eat.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially if you're on one of these medications. And I tell them, I don't expect you to be able to hit this in a day, but we all know what the deficit is in this country. It's not protein,
Yeah.
it's fiber,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an easy fix for a lot of people. I say easy, but it's something for people to focus on. It's attainable.
It's
They
a goal.
see,
Yeah.
right, they see where those fallouts are. From there, we talk about protein sources. I start with, I don't care what protein source you eat. If you're eating something, let's start there. Then we start to fine tune. We also have to remember accessibility. We also have to take into consideration is emotional eating or horrible relationship with food, binge eating, is any of that happening? I can't go and say, okay, you're going to take all of the candy out of your house if somebody comes in with a known diagnosis of binge eating. We got to start at square one. How do we start to add foods in versus restricting them?
Yeah. That's a big one I use too, is like, eat a salad before you have your meal, or try to fill up on your fiber before
If you're going to get vegetables in via a wrap versus just eating a salad, I don't care.
Yeah.
Eat something.
Just get them in
Just get 'em
somehow.
in. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So fill up on the good stuff before you have your sweets and everything, and meeting people where they're at, and just knowing that, yeah, these are your eating habits, and how do we work with where you're at, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, people think, okay, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to go and have a salad, and I'm going to just eat plain chicken and rice. No, it's foods that you actually enjoy. Give it flavor. Order from you. I don't care. Find
Yeah.
a meal prep company that you actually like eating. This is the discovery part of it, where maybe they didn't spend much time doing that before, and they were doing Optavia, eating foods from boxes, right?
Yeah.
This is the time where you want the whole foods that are going to actually stretch your stomach out, take up the room in your gut, and also promote good gut bacteria. That's going to help.
I feel like it's hard to overeat like chicken and steak. You're not going to sit down and eat a huge, but you can eat a whole pizza.
Right.
Yeah. So that makes it a little harder.
Yeah, it depends. There are some, there are medications out there where it doesn't matter what's coming in, and this is, I think, where that tool could be placed too. I'm not, for whoever needs to hear this, I make no money from Big Pharma. They don't pay me. They don't come with a check. I don't get any of that.
Yeah.
I think that's a common call out too, but it's a tool that works for these people, especially, at nighttime, where if you're on an antipsychotic medication, you could eat fabulous throughout the day. And fabulous meaning they're satisfied, they feel full, and then nighttime comes and there is no off switch. That's a lot of the emotional work that we also have to do in relation to this too. But how do we stop that gradual gain over time? You make them feel that feeling of fullness, and then you start to work on the emotional underpinnings of that to kind of help with that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. Certain people do need that, right? But so you're not out here just promoting the GLP-1s and the weight loss stuff, the drugs. You also have the other 5 pillars or six pillars. So
Yes.
What goes into that? Because I know with me, I like to say there's your physical health, your nutrition, your exercise, diet and exercise. You have your mental health, you have your spiritual health, and your financial health. Those are the 5 that I kind of focus on. But what are your 6?
Yeah, so with the sleep is one that everybody laughs at. I don't think they expect me to ask about it, but
It's huge.
You have horrible sleep quality, you're not going to be able to recover from a workout. You're not going to be able to make better decisions with nutrition, because those cravings are going to come and they're going to be calling you, especially if food noise is there and that's an issue for you.
Oh, yeah.
Again, PCOS is another one where that sleep is really important, especially for food noise and hormonal control. But with sleep specifically, so we'll talk about quality and quantity. I have people that come in and they'll say, I have 4 hours of sleep, but I actually feel well rested when I wake up. I feel great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Keep doing what you're doing. We could talk about extending that a little bit more, but if you're able to meet your activities of daily living, I'm not going to change that.
4 hours, man. I don't know if I can do that.
I can't do that. But majority of people come in and their sleep is terrible. And now this could be women who are going through menopause, transitioning. A lot of people, it's not enough movement during the day. They're not, adjusting their circadian rhythm to actually see the sun outside, because we're used to this new norm of you're working from sun up to sundown.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bed, and then your face is in front of a screen for the hours that you're not working.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of focusing on how can we make those adjustments. Can we put a timer on the cell phone use? Can we say, if you're at least going to go outside, let's say if you're a pediatric patient, you're going to go outside, play a game on your phone that is, I don't know, like Pokemon Go used to be the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Get outside and do something.
Yeah.
And then we start building from there. But sleep is another one we focus on. And just to point to this as well, so I am not well versed in myofunctional therapy. I am not a sleep, connoisseur, but there's a dentist, Kristen Geist. She's out in Voorheesville, and she actually is a dentist that specializes in sleep and oral airway development.
That's interesting.
So she'll do a full assessment for sleep apnea. So if somebody sleeps with their mouth open, their tongue is not in the appropriate resting position. She'll go through and do testing for that. So there are nasal appliances you can use, there are oral appliances that you can use, and the quality of sleep that people come back with after using those.
Oh, it's a game changer.
Game changer,
Yeah.
yes.
I had a buddy of mine, I just did a Spartan race yesterday, actually, and we stayed in the hotel the night before, and he had one of those sleeping masks on, and he does great with it. He's been on it for a while, and he said it's totally changed everything.
And, it's not, and that would be something where I don't want to sleep with anything on my face. But if this is going to get you to wake up and feel well rested to do what you need to do to exercise,
just try it.
Try it out, right? So that's another one. Stress management, another one people laugh at, and nobody has that down pat. We all try.
Yeah.
We can't plan for everything, but everybody comes in super stressed.
Even us professionals, right? We deal with stress all the time.
I just came in and told you I've been arguing with insurance companies all day. My stress is great.
Yeah, I had a crazy morning of people not getting their orders on time and this and that, and I woke up to that couple of emails and messages. I'm like, oh boy, that's a great way to start the Monday. So. Yeah.
So stress management from that standpoint is figuring out, is it financial? Is it relationship? Is it something that we have control over? I always boast that I have been known to have people leave their jobs because that's been the true stress of what's, impacting their overall lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more people to do that because it's not about, I'm doing this job because it makes me happy. They're not. And they know that. They kind of just needed that push to be able to do it. But really digging into what kind of things can we do to offload. Are you doing any movement?
Yeah.
Underrated, but go for a walk. We can say meditate, but if somebody's stress level is up here.
Yeah, meditation takes a while too.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the sprinkles on top when you're working on the rest of it, right?
Yeah, the big blocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
But truly, another part of stress management is therapy, and I always encourage people to go, even if you don't feel like something is wrong. Having that soundboard to just unleash on.
Yeah.
You walk out feeling like $1 million.
Oh yeah. I go every week. Yeah. Well, every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Underrated.
Yeah.
That is one where I have found the people that do best in my practice hit all of those. They have a therapist that they talk to regularly. They actively working on their sleep. Social connection is another one. There was a lot of isolation during COVID.
Sure.
And I think people have lost the ability to hold eye contact, to actually have conversations with people.
Yeah.
And that's been an issue to be able to hold on to friendships and have deep, meaningful relationships with people.
Yeah. And with the invention of social media and everything's online, you don't actually have to, interact face to face.
Right.
Yeah. I just read this book, The Anxious Generation. It talks all about that, how the increase in anxiety and depression because
right to your phone.
Yeah, because it's all on your phone and you're so worried. The world's gotten so much bigger and your actual world is non-existent, like all your friends and family and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, but...
and bringing awareness to that to say, what are you doing once a week to meet with other people?
Well, the gym is a good way to, kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
We have a great community at the gym where I coach at, Battleground in Saratoga, and everybody's friends, and we go in and we interact. There's a lot of talking. Wish there was a little more moving, but sometimes. But the talking, it's great, and that's like where I get the majority of my socialization. So yeah,
it really
very
does.
Important.
You don't know how isolated you actually are until you go to a place where you're like, oh wow, there's a lot of people here. I actually have to talk and put myself out there. But it does make a difference, and people have noticed that. And these are things, we're talking about these pillars. These are ones where we're actively working on them, but the weight management, the nutrition, the movement really takes most of that time with the appointments in the beginning. Yeah. Because I'm not going to go tell somebody, like I said, to meditate if they're like, okay, but I'm really stressed about my health. I was just told I have type 2 diabetes. Yeah. So there is a method to how these all get worked in, but covering them and setting small goals. We're not trying to, change the world in 3 appointments. It's you're kind of in this for the long run.
Yeah.
You know.
With a holistic approach.
Yeah. And then the last one, so we kind of talked about the emotional too with therapy, but emotional eating would go into that as well. And then I'm not trying to make anybody sober. However, we know about alcohol intake. We know that the damage it can have. From a calorie standpoint, we know it just makes people feel a little more loose. So they tend to forget how much they drink. Then they tend to forget how much they actually ate.
Yeah.
And then the next day, what is that looking like for you? Are you not able to get up and, have a day?
Yeah.
And there are people that do come in, their goal is to cut down on their alcohol intake. And that is something that we do focus on a lot. It's not everybody, but even if you're coming in saying, I drink 2 drinks on the weekend and I really want to stop that. Okay, that's one of our goals.
Yeah.
Let's do it,
Yeah, that's a hard one for a lot of people. I know I struggled with it for a while.
Yeah.
IPAs have like 300 calories in them sometimes, and that you don't even think about it. But it just like ruins your motivation. You wake up, you're already in a deficit energy-wise, and you're not
Sleep
able to tackle your day.
Plummeted, yep.
Yeah, everything kind of goes out of whack. So, yeah, it's no good. Try to mitigate that if you can. But I think we're on the same page as far as like covering those big blocks, and then not trying to do it overnight, not trying to, tackle everything at once. It's like one at a time, big blocks: sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise, all that stuff. That's the important stuff, really.
Yeah.
And then once you develop a good baseline, then you go into the details, which is, again, what I tell most people that come to see me. I'm like, let's get these things figured out before you go and get your blood work done, because if you just had 5 beers last night and you're going to get your blood work done, it's gonna be off.
Right.
It's not gonna read well. So, just kind of get everything baseline, get everything good, and then go get your blood work done. Then start figuring out these detailed problems.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that will come in and say, should I do cold plunges? Should I go into the sauna? I'm like, we are not even, that is not what we're focusing on right now. If you want to and it brings you joy and stress relief, excellent.
Sure, why not?
We're not thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
What food should I take out that don't have seed oils? I'm like, again, if it's going to get you to eat vegetables and fruit and add those in, don't worry about it. I don't care right now.
Yeah.
Those are the pebbles. We're looking for boulders here.
That's what, exactly. Yeah. That's what social media has got everybody thinking, that it's all about
Food
these
dyes.
little things, and sure, those are, let's clean that up.
Right.
Sure, because there's a large population of people that are affected by that have no idea. They have no education around nutrition at all. And they just eat out of a box or a bag or whatever. And those things are a problem. We need to kind of, I think we need to get rid of a lot of that stuff and clean it up. But we shouldn't be focusing on that stuff.
Right.
It's like, let's just try to get some whole foods.
Right.
And proper sleep, nutrition, exercise, all that. So, because of that whole movement online, the stuff in social media that we see, I do see a trend in health and wellness, which is great. Where do you see like the future of nutrition going? I know it's kind of a vague question, but like the collaboration between the healthcare system, nutrition people, coaches, dietitians, whatever, and the fitness world.
Yeah.
Do you see that kind of coming together?
Absolutely. Or? Yeah. So right now with my practice, I actually have a group of registered dietitians that I will refer people to. And they'll say, what's the difference between you and them? And I'll say, they allow you, they have done way more clinical hours than I have. I actually tried to do a dietitian rotation during nurse practitioner school, and they would not let me because they said it wouldn't count towards my education.
That's insane. I don't like that.
No. So I went and did independent studies, and I went and did my own education outside of that. I would have loved to been able to have that count towards a degree, but dietitians, nobody is going to replace them. Just like nobody's going to replace personal trainers, gym owners, right? Like nobody can replace those people. The dietitians come in, and if I have somebody that needs to learn the basics of protein, carbs, fats, like just setting up a plate, they offer an excellent program that gives more touch points for patients.
Yeah.
So I might be able to come in and do all of that education for sure, but they need more of that hand holding, and that's what the dietitians are able to provide. Yeah. Then from there, we kind of go back and forth about what support this patient needs. And oftentimes they're like, hey, after 8 weeks, they know the basics, they got it down, happy to continue working with them, or if you want to take over. And from there, we kind of decide, what does the treatment plan look like? Are we Do we need to use a medication based on what else is going on? How are things trending? And we kind of discuss it from there. But every practice, every primary care office should be working with a dietitian. I've always said, like, I don't know why we're not just assigned a primary care doctor, a dietitian, and a therapist.
Yeah.
When we sign up for a primary care appointment.
Yeah.
Why? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great that insurance, even my not great insurance, covers my therapist, which is great. But the food thing, I mean, people just have no education around that. And I feel like dietitians need to be out there more talking about the big blocks and not focusing on these little things. But I do see an upward trend in, people at least being more aware and more concerned about what's going into their body. And I think that's great. In 2025, I think people are starting to wake up. I love it. It's keeping us in business, obviously. But, I'm just here to promote what I think, and which is a pretty holistic approach like yourself. And, I just think it's great. So, yeah. What else do you have going on? What else do you do in your practice, or even just outside of that? Like what kind of? I know you're vegan.
Well,
right?
So let's talk about this for a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
So a few things that I have been talking about with patients is when they come in and they are actively trying to improve their health, they're like, I don't want my kids to follow what I'm doing. So I spend a lot of time educating parents on how their changes are going to impact their family. And a lot of the time it's my kids don't like what I cook, so I end up cooking different things. And I'm like, okay, we're from Green Fork. And that's where I'm like, here you go.
Thank you for that.
Yes. But at the same time, it's also unlearning these learned behaviors for 30, 40 years that their parents had taught them, or caretakers, whatever. So one of the things that I have adopted myself, I went 7 years not eating meat, just personal preference. I did not tell my patients that they had to go vegan to be successful. My goal is, what can we do to get you a balanced nutrition intake? Whole foods is possible.
Yeah.
For me, that was just the way that it went pre-kids.
Yeah.
Then having kids was fine. But then I started to see, okay, my son is kind of a picky eater.
Yeah.
Was starting to really struggle. And I'm like, okay, so if he's seeing that I'm making a few different things for the family, how is he going to interpret that? I took this on from a standpoint of we're doing this as taste testing, right? We put a bunch of different foods on the table, you pick what you want. So he sees me trying different things, then he'll be able to do that too. So from that standpoint, it's more so like, my ideal, I don't feel like I need to eat meat to be able to hit my protein goals. It's a little more difficult than somebody that's going to be eating meat, but doing it from this standpoint of having my child, understand that you can choose whatever you want from that standpoint. You make your own likes and dislikes. Don't base them off of me, is going to carry him more than me putting my preferences out for him right now.
Exactly. And just exposing him to all the variety. And I know when I was a kid, my parents, we were pretty plain Jane, ate really simple, not too bad, but, with my son, I've done the same thing. I mean, he's exposed to all different types of flavors from around the world and all different types of cooking techniques. I'm teaching him to cook. He has a lot of options as far as whatever he wants to eat. We can do that, and that does change the game. I mean, it makes him more aware of what's out there, offer more choices. Right? He's not locked in. Being vegan, I think someone like you who's very aware and knowledgeable on what to eat, it's a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
For some folks, what I see a lot of times, they eat a lot of the processed stuff, the fake chicken nuggets.
Oh, it's vegan, it must be healthy. Or it's gluten-free, it must be healthy.
Yeah, it's not that way, so I think that's really great. I mean, you being educated and passing that education on to your children, I mean, that's what I think everybody should do.
Yeah, and I have educated patients too. They're like, how come you never post what you eat in a day? I'm like, because what I eat in a day is going to be different than what you eat in a day. You shouldn't be eating what I'm eating in a day. But what has changed it is not necessarily that I stopped eating meat when I did. It was because I was adding in more fiber.
Yeah.
That was really the game changer. It wasn't because I stopped one thing. That was just, I did, and it was easy for me at the time, and I was like, why not? But that was really where those big significant changes happened, when I added in more and I actually was following how much fiber I was taking in. Sleep improved across the board. Fullness improved across the board. I wasn't snacking. Wasn't having the afternoon crashes. I mean, the protein coming in with that, we know about the muscle rebuild and the brain, benefits from that too. But that was really the difference that I felt from it. And I didn't realize how much fiber I was actually lacking. And this was 7-8 years ago, until I actually was like, I'm going to track this, not calories. I'm just going to track my fiber. I was like, holy shit, I am really bad at this. And I focused on that, and that was easy for me to do.
Yeah, because you're educated, you're aware, you have the resources. I mean, that's great. Yeah, everybody needs that. I feel like we should wrap up, but why don't you tell people where they can find you if they want to, like what you're doing on social media, your website and all that.
Yeah, so 6pillarshealth.com is my website. It kind of gives you an idea of current patient, new patients, pricing. 6 Pillars Health is my Instagram handle. I am not going to be putting videos up of me like getting ready for the day or what I'm eating or what I'm cooking. I'll probably do an advertisement for you once in a while because it's just easy and it makes sense. But other than that, I'm not too active because I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah, she's busy. She's busy doing the real work out there.
One day, but I don't know.
No, it's great. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for coming on here and telling people about what you do. Like I said in the introduction, you're an ally for health and wellness out here in the community, making people feel better, live better, be better. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next week on the Green Fork Food for Thought podcast.